the Around the NFL podcast. We'll never forget David Blau's Thanksgiving performance.
Oh, no, we will not. Who is David Blau? Yes, Lions back. Okay, yes, we will never forget it. From the Chris Wessling podcast studio, it's Around the NFL. I'm Dan Hanzus with heroes Gregg Rosenthal, Marc Sessler, Blauhard Nation. What's going on with the Blauhard newsletter?
There's a little bit less news these days. It's kind of you're having to
hiatus.
Create content. We know how that is sometimes. But to that point,
I mean, he's a reality star now after that turn on Hard Knocks.
To that point, though, all this Marc is anti-Lions business. I was
Right.
on the Lions Thanksgiving train and created a newsletter about a Lions player long before it became so popular, and then they went and cut my player.
Are
Okay.
you, as the writer of the David Blauhard newsletter?
Red string.
What team is David Blau on? I see you searching. You can't search.
I believe he is on the
Eagles.
Bears, maybe.
Ooh, you right division. Stayed in the NFC North. It is the Vikings. He is on.
I mean,
he's on Thanksgiving again.
There have been no
potentially.
issues of the Blau. Like when he left the Lions
Right.
on Hard Knocks in that fashion, as the editor in chief, I am in search of a new passion.
Good. And you will find it. I trust that you will. Everybody survived. Zach Wilson is the Antichrist Monday in the NFL media game.
Barely.
We got through that?
Ponderous.
Jesus Christ.
Marc really kicked it off by saying he's not an NFL quarterback on Sunday night.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, he wasn't on Sunday, but
I don't think the person needs to be taken behind the woodshed 4,000 times in a row.
It definitely had shades of Cower on Colts by this morning as the takes piled up. But we'll get to that. We'll get to everything. This is the Thanksgiving preview.
It's a big sell there.
Episode. No, it's just like.
No, I'm just saying we'll get to everything. I don't know if we can fulfill that promise.
Because I don't want to be hypocritical because we get riled up on the show about things, so maybe more riled up than necessary. But this is now it's a trend here where whenever there's a story that people sink their teeth into, like by 24 hours later when the same people are talking about it for the second or third time, it just gets more and more and more amped up, and the hysteria about a 23-year-old quarterback that played poorly and then said the wrong things in the press conference, and all of a sudden he's being called shameful and disgraceful, and he'll never get the trust back of the locker room. It's just like, can we just lower the temperature? It's the holidays. And I know you think that's because it's the Jets. It's not. It's just like it's the same thing that happened with the Colts. Everyone's got to outtake each other until we're screaming with our heads like on fire and about something that's so inconsequential in the big picture.
I am with you. The exhaustion factor when one person is just piled on over and over. It's like I think we've all made our opinions known days ago, and it's 24, 48 hours later, and we're still destroying this person verbally on playful little Twitter. Take a break.
Twitter. All right, let's get into it. Yes, we're going to preview all the Thanksgiving games, the John Madden Thanksgiving celebration, as it's now known, and don't get it wrong.
I'm excited. You said that he's going to have an image on the field.
Well, no, there's going to be a logo on each of the fields in the three stadiums and helmet decals on the players. And John Madden is one of the easier.
Did you say decals?
Decals.
I'm tracking.
What?
Yeah, he's got a whole
everything right now.
pronunciation.
I do say
thing going
decals,
on
though.
lately.
Decals.
I
That's
don't
the
know
craziest
why.
one yet.
I don't know why.
Maybe that is British.
It's not an intentional choice. So it must be deeply ingrained.
Controversy.
I don't say
that's
that.
more of a UK thing. But I feel like maybe our UK listeners can tell us if
they've already come forth and said
rebelled.
that half of these verbalizations are not how they say it.
Okay.
So I'm not clinging to London or England or that country for that.
All right, let's do some news before we get to the games.
Monday Night Football! ¡Viva México! ¡Viva la NFL! ¡Y viva Monday Night Football! Monday Night! Por ESPN! Monday Night!
John Sutcliffe got us to the kickoff on Monday night in Mexico City with a spirited declaration of the day of the game.
I love the energy.
There was no misunderstanding when the game was played by the time that ball was kicked to begin action. in Mexico City.
I got to say, the international series, I don't think it's ever been hotter. Henry Hodgson has to be happy over there in London. That crowd. It's like the second straight game where the head coach says, or Tom Brady said it in Germany. That was one of the most unique experiences of his career. And Kyle Shanahan said it last night. It's one of the best experiences of his career. That crowd came with it.
I do think it goes back to their football and their passion in Europe and Germany, in Mexico for that sport, and those crowds were insane.
Think about Handsome Hank, too. Great-looking dude.
Yes.
Takes a great job to return to his homeland. Favorite team is the Dolphins, one of the most exciting teams in football. He's the International Pathway Program, winning. And now you have this international series, which is just in full bloom. Whatever Henry's getting paid,
winning.
It needs to be tripled. The guy's got tiger blood.
I would imagine his salary, because we've known him for over a decade, has been tripled multiple times.
He's doing real well.
I don't think there's a problem with the direct deposit checking account.
Next time, the main reason I want to go to London again is so I can get picked up by a private car paid for by Henry, so I could see his castle.
Yeah,
that's what I'm looking for.
Right next to Enya's castle.
We can't. That's the closest to the melody I can get without one of the bosses being like, "No, no, no."
No, you got to play by the rules.
Remember that 5-year stretch where Marc just played Enya all the time? I miss that.
Where is that, Marc?
I'll go back to that.
Yeah.
I'll hit that up occasionally.
All right, Matthew Stafford, let's get into it. He returned to the lineup for the Rams against the Saints on Sunday, just 2 days after clearing concussion protocol after missing Week 10, but did not finish the game and re-entered the league's 5-step concussion protocol on Monday, putting his status in doubt very much, I would think, for the Rams' upcoming game. And in general, you would think maybe this is a situation where he could be just shut down. We'll see. But either way, Gregg, we talked about it on the Sunday show, these double concussions, if you want to call it that, which maybe that's not exactly, but you know what I'm saying. It's worrisome because obviously the league's safety initiatives have helped in terms of when you look at the data, but at the same time, these situations are scary that players are going back on the field and not right.
And we need coaches to do a better job being clear with what's going on. Sean McVay wouldn't answer a direct question about whether Matthew Stafford suffered a concussion before last week's game. And then after this one, it's been very vague as well, saying that they're still evaluating the circumstance. They did admit that he is in the concussion protocol, but they said further tests need to be done. I don't want to point fingers. I just want someone to be straight. And for whatever reason, them not telling the media anything about any details of why there's a disconnect, is creating further problems, I feel like, for McVay.
I think even on Sunday, we talked about it. Something feels a little bit off with the way that McVay is answering questions or having to. He said at one point, it's going to be about whether he could be available this week or again. It's going to be about the person first and foremost. We're going to be totally in alignment with medical advice. But then he goes on to say with Matthew, with Kelly, meaning Kelly Stafford, and all that kind of stuff, you can't be too careful. I don't know. We're waiting to see. But I get the feeling that we're going to find out this is, whether it's concussion-related, it could be a little bit more than that. There could be something else going on that is making McVay's answers, making it tough for McVay to just say black and white concussion, yes or no, this is what's going on.
Well, the NFLPA also said they're monitoring how it's being handled. I have some speculation, but it doesn't feel fair. I think that what we've seen, though, and I think this is fair to point out, that the concussion protocol has vagaries in it where players can feel a certain way, and they can also passed that concussion protocol. We saw Christian Darrisaw return quickly. An offensive lineman who's going to take all these hits every single week. It's guaranteed when you play. Get out of the protocol and then immediately suffer a concussion again when he gets back on the field. So I think the NFL is struggling. There's no right answer, but you can get out of the protocol and still be at heavy risk for a concussion.
I think also from a Rams angle, to your point, Dan, why do we need Matthew Stafford to play again anytime soon in a Cooper Kupp-free offense that is a horror show behind their offensive line?
You know what?
Any quarterback for that matter.
When I was writing the power rankings, I had the sentence was something like, given the Rams' standings, where they're placed in the standings, and Cooper Kupp out, they should probably think, but it really shouldn't have anything to do with anything that's going on with the Rams. If you're not not sure about what's going on with this brain injury for Matthew Stafford, you got to be safe about it. I would be disappointed, quite frankly, without knowing. We don't know anything about it, but I'm just saying, I'd be a little disappointed to see him on the field, given the way this has played out the last 2 weeks.
By the way, they got the Chiefs this week.
Yeah.
I went and checked. They will be not just the worst defending Super Bowl champion ever, but in terms of record and analytics and all that, they probably will be the worst defending Super Bowl champion by a lot. Like, there's not even many with a losing record, and those teams were like 7-9.
When dark energy levels higher
Sad.
for this Super Bowl defender than any other. It's been a rough ride.
Some say they bought the title on credit, and the bill came due. Hey, speaking of zaddies, I think about Mike McCarthy a lot. Gregg with a little zaddy energy in this button down, and I think that Gregg, my take on
bit
this,
of a stretch,
and I wanted to save it for the show because I'm going to use some football parlance here, or as Marc would say, parlance.
You also famously don't like having quality interactions off air.
What's the point?
Yeah, you got to save it.
That shirt for you, given your style, is a tendency breaker.
Okay. Yeah.
It's if you're listening to this and you're just driving around, it is a checkered blue and lime, not lime, but I would say
it's like
forest
honey,
green
I
tree.
packed the picnic. Bring the blanket. Let's go to the park with the children.
It's got it buttoned right up
Bring
to
the bouncy
top
ball.
There.
You're very.
It's a point of departure.
You got to
for you
bring the bouncy
stylistically.
ball. You're right. The kids love it. It just you never know where that thing's gonna bounce. It's not a shirt I feel overly comfortable in, and so I have a thing that I do with my clothes. I love throwing away things.
Sure.
Any objects, clothes, anything.
Wasteful.
Could be given to charity.
Wear
or
it.
people
Well,
that need
yes.
it.
You're throw it away.
No,
Okay,
you're
now,
giving it
now
to
he's going to
$200
massage what he said.
It's like a
and
$200
say,
shirt
yeah.
or something.
Of course, this is like a $10 shirt, probably.
you
Me
got
and
it
all
for
my
free,
friends
but-
are jerks. You got to wear it one time, or wear it one more
Right.
time, and then to make your final decision before you get rid
What
of it.
garbage
So this
can
is
are you
the
going to
time.
throw it in as you're leaving the building today?
It's not a bad shirt. It's a tendency breaker. And Bryce Perkins can end up
So
starting
you think
for
I
the
should
Rams.
keep it?
I do, because I think it's
Okay.
good to keep it in the mix. Or you could do one of your things. You wear one of your like little T-shirts you like with it open, and then you kind of get the best of both worlds.
Ooh, that's like a late week option. I like that. Or a weekend.
That's a
day
Friday
option.
fun
Yeah,
show.
Friday or Saturday scenario. Yeah.
The little T-shirts you like, also known as just T-shirts.
Marc, you know what I mean? It's like the Greg's
I
shirts.
could picture
Plain
what you were
t-shirts.
saying
like band
right away, and I think
T-shirts or,
anyone listening could
you
picture
had
that.
some type of Japanese themed T-shirt
Yeah.
on the Friday Fun Show. They're
Yeah.
like Greggy shirts.
Drape this
I
shirt over
don't
that
own any
situation.
Japanese themed T-shirts.
Really?
That's true.
All right, let's move on. Yes, we touched on it with the Zach Wilson is the Antichrist tour in the media on Monday. It gained more steam, this story. It was a big story after Sunday, the way things played out with the Jets and his poor play. Then it picked up steam because Robert Saleh came out in the for his press availability and for the first time ever blinked when talking about Zach Wilson as the future.
But at that, we're keeping everything on the table over the next couple of days.
So you're not committing to Zach as your starter for Sunday?
Not right now, not until I'm done evaluating everything.
I'm not feeling good about Zach Wilson. Anybody that listens to this podcast knows for the most part, I've always had my guard up with Wilson, and it's not looking good right now. But I also see the value in continuing to play him right now, even if it seems like a bad idea that can ruin their season. Part of that is because I don't think Mike White or Joe Flacco are actual upgrades. I'd rather ride it out with Wilson, and if it costs you your season, it's probably going to be cost anyway if you have to go to your backups at that point. But my main point to take out of that, and I think Wilson starts against the Bears. I think he put him on blast publicly, and I think that was for two reasons. One, because Wilson needed to be put on blast because his play's been so poor. But two, the locker room needed the head coach to come out and basically tell the media, but also tell the room, I hear you guys. I understand your frustration, and I'm not going to keep coming out there and saying that the quarterback change is the furthest thing from my mind, because that's a disconnect. And Saleh's walking a tightrope of trying to keep the quarterback's confidence up, but also not lose his locker room. I thought it was handled deftly by Saleh, but it still doesn't mean he's not in a lot of trouble right now with the way the quarterback is playing.
I mean, in a way, this is a great development for the Jets. And hear me out, because if the Jets, no one's asking, why are the Texans sticking with Davis Mills? The Texans are in a deep abyss. The Jets
and I think they're benching him this week.
Well, but in
Houston,
general, Greg, what I'm saying is no one's sitting around debating whether or not bad quarterbacks on bad teams should play.
Right.
The Jets are a playoff contender, and so it's like you have the locker room steamed because they see that they have like a Super Bowl level defense and just simply want the offense to do its part. And I think Zach Wilson's answer of no, I didn't let anyone down. It definitely rubbed the locker room the long way. We get it. Zach Wilson's young. Will learn to not say that next time around. But point being, you are on the cusp of January play for the first time in ever. You have to be accountable to your coaching staff, to your players, and you have to explore all options. And I think they went as far as they could with Zach Wilson. If they were 1-9 or something, you keep going. It wouldn't matter. It matters, and that's a good thing for the Jets and their fans from a different point of view.
And the benching doesn't have to be for the rest of his career. It doesn't even need to be for the rest of the season. We'll find out the answer to this question on Wednesday. Almost always when a coach equivocates on Monday, the guy is benched.
Bingo.
Because he said previously, Robert Saleh, Zach Wilson is our starter the rest of the season. Now, what they say at these press conferences, I don't think you should have to hold it to him. He said that trying to show some confidence, and if he benches him, you should bench him because that's the best thing for the team. I would disagree, though, that it's not a big difference. I think there's a significant difference between Joe Flacco and most likely Mike White and Zach Wilson. I think it's sizable. I think those plays that Mike White made in the couple times he's played where he just sees where the blitz is coming and gets rid of the ball. It's like
it was one game, Mike White.
Right. But I think preseason, I think his other performances, even just the little things. And then Joe Flacco. We've seen. I know Joe Flacco's not a good quarterback.
You and I have a very deep disconnect on Flacco and what he can do. But I'm not going to fight it and say there's no reason that Zach Wilson should be benched because you can make the case for morale just for trying to get the offense going.
Right.
I just mean they literally double the yardage with Joe Flacco.
Well,
it's not like it's comparable.
You're going to have organization with
counting
Flacco.
Stats are, to me, a little bit.
But Dan, wouldn't you agree that part of the Zach Wilson issue is he's just not picking this up? And Flacco's got limitations. We call him Stone Age pony for a reason, but he may bring a fair amount of organization. They just need 20% better quarterback play, and they might be they're able to beat anyone.
The timing's tricky, though. They have the easiest schedule in the league in terms of opposing quarterbacks and the defense that they face, I think, according to EPA, the rest of the season. That starts with facing the worst defense in the league in terms of EPA over the last 5 weeks in the Chicago Bears this week. So the schedule is incredibly easy, the easiest in the league. And so I don't know how that informs this choice. To me, it would maybe make them more willing to stick with Zach Wilson.
That's what I think. Because like I said on Sunday, I do think the organization, whether it's stubbornness at this point, but they think there's something salvageable and there's something they could build on with Wilson. So I would think they're going to give him a start against Chicago. And if he flops there, then all bets are off. But it was a very notable thing, the way things turned in that press conference. Let's move on and talk about – what do we want to talk about? Let's talk about Justin Fields.
Speaking of Chicago.
Who should be a Jet, but you know what? We're not going to do that. We're not going to play that game. They brought me on NFL Now today, and I do a power rankings hit every Tuesday. And they're like, Dan, can you stick around for the one more thing?
They're like, we love what you just did. Could you add? Could you do more?
And I was like, yeah, sure. That's nice. Yeah. Okay. And then one more thing is everybody up there gets their turn. Bop, 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 bop. It's me, Jeff Chadilla, Baldy, Andrew.
Heavy hitters.
It's a nice crew. And Jeff gets in my ear, Colette, great producer, and says, hey, 10-year anniversary of the butt fumble. Come on.
You're the Jets guy.
This week's got to end. Take me to Thanksgiving.
You could have said no. You took it like a champ.
What did you say about
fun
it
with
then?
it?
Yeah,
I said exactly what I'm basically expressing to you guys. Like, ha, everybody get their chuckles in. Johnny chuckles. Put Dan in the wheelbarrow and roll him up to the set so he could make fun of himself and his horrible team. Which I took it on the chin, but I also mentioned our podcast and said everyone has to focus on the Marc Sanchez butt fumble, which was objectively funny. But I remember Marc Sanchez beating the Patriots in the playoffs, going to the AFC title game twice in a row.
What did you say about our show, though?
That Marc Sanchez was on the show.
Oh, so you didn't mention Gregg and I specifically?
No.
Oh.
No.
Well, I mean,
You know who I want to mention? Jason Zumwalt. Great job in the Monday Night Football recap.
he's a star.
He was fun.
Speaking of like taking one for the team, he's a Cardinals fan. And he went on after that disgraceful team.
Yeah.
No shows in Mexico.
Yeah,
all
I
places.
apologized for using his misery for content, but the pathos was real.
He
It
played
was
it
real.
well. He played it well. All right. Yes, Justin Fields. There are differing reports on the status of his shoulder as the Bears prepare for the Jets on Sunday. We have Ian Rappaport, our guy, and Pelissero, who are both saying he suffered a left shoulder dislocation that he played through against the Falcons, which is absurd. That's like Mel Gibson and Lethal Weapon 2 stuff. That's a weird reference, but we're going to keep moving.
That is a true parallel.
But we're hearing from other places here, Greggy, that it's not dislocated, and that would be, I would think, good news for the Bears. But his status up in the air as of right now.
Well, I trust our guys, just to be
I think we are
clear.
contractually obligated to.
Right, and if you do watch us on YouTube, there's no question about it. It just says he suffered it because the rap sheet and the Pell dog.
Pelly.
I think he needs a better nickname than that. The Pell Raiser.
Yeah, they
I
would
like
get it
that.
wrong. It was very weird though that Matt Eberflus, their coach, said
Eberflus?
he's day to day, but he wouldn't rule him out
Hellraiser.
being out for the season. I was like, what?
That is weird. That's
I
leaving
was like,
everything on the
can
table
I lock
for no
up
reason.
the Jets while there's still a question? Because the Jets versus Trevor Siemian.
Yes,
I would-
definitely lock up Zach Wilson. Right now.
If they're going against the worst defense in the league in Trevor Siemian, I would feel comfortable no matter who's.
Think the Bears roll out the same offense with Trevor Siemian
We'll see.
under center?
We'll find out, but that is that's concerning because they were a fun part of this season despite all the losing. I really hope he's able to.
I mean, one
keep
way or
playing.
the other, he's not feeling great. It may be a surprise if we see him at all this weekend.
All right.
Justin Graver, we have some developing news right now. As we're in the studio, it's not related to any of the news that we've had on the show. But
Drew, I have to share what you just sent me, Drew Christensen. Go ahead.
The Rams waived Darrell Henderson and Justin Hollins. And I don't care if Drew Christensen says this wasn't worthy of developing news or whatever he said. I don't know what he said.
It's even worse.
This is a guy who's been starting for the Super Bowl winner a lot of the times, Darrell Henderson.
Wow.
A mid-round fantasy pick.
What's that
That's
about?
weird.
What is going on with that team?
Wait, this is after they were having multiple issues with Cam Akers. What's going on with this
Justin
backfield?
Hollins also, am I wrong that he's been starting quite a bit for them? Very strange. Very
This
strange.
is becoming a legit meltdown.
5 starts by Justin Hollins this year.
Jordan Rodriguez, our friend from The Athletic, who covers the Rams. Henderson and Hollins have been consistent starters for this team. I wonder, maybe some locker room discord.
People not happy with their usage potentially. That was
Yeah.
what was up with Cam Akers. Darrell Henderson had a very strange game on Sunday where he started almost every drive, and those were the only snaps of the game he took. He would play one snap, and then he would leave. I think he played 5 or 6 snaps the whole game, which is
Interesting.
Very weird.
Finally, in the news, good news, Greggy. The MVP vote is being expanded to include a top 5 in terms of voting. Drew, our video producer, wrote to me, and this is his quote, Gregg. Hit Gregg up quick after this on the AP voting changes. He wants to mention it because he's a nerd, and maybe this makes him feel like he's part of the quote-unquote media.
Well, I mean,
Whoa.
he is a media member, as far as I know.
This is troubling.
That felt personal.
Right.
I don't
mean,
know.
what this
Always
says
feels
about
good to hurt your
our
friends.
relationship is more important than this MVP. No, actually, nothing's more important than this. I've been asking for this for years, and I'm excited that it's happening. Remember that whole thing, Russell Wilson's never got an MVP vote. It's unfortunate.
That's why this is worth celebrating.
No.
This will be the year, finally.
Because we went back in time, Russell Wilson would get 2 fifth-place votes.
He would have gotten a number of third
2016.
or fourth place votes over the years. I just think other sports do this, and it makes so much sense, and it makes the award better. And now you can talk about your whole top 5 list.
Okay.
Okay, where do I put Tyreek Hill on that? Do I put him above Tua? Are they both on the list? Now it's not just you're an idiot if you don't vote Patrick Mahomes. At this point, it's Patrick Mahomes, but I like the 2, 3, 4, 5. You can involve defensive players. There's a lot.
It could alter races too. I mean,
Absolutely.
if you look at it, like there are a couple examples. Like in 2005, Sean Alexander won MVP with 19 votes. Peyton Manning, Tom Brady had 13 and 10. If you start to tabulate the second, the third, like that could be toppled. And so I'm just saying, like it matters. Now it's going to force some of these sports writers to watch more games
tied?
they do.
That was
they
ridiculous.
Won't,
What? They won't. But in theory, they should be watching a lot more games. I'm not saying all.
Who are the AP votes?
Well, you know who isn't us because we're not like. Remember our Pro Football Writers Association entanglement?
Lauber.
I want to
Lauber
get
came
in
on the
on
show.
this. I want to be a real member.
We got to go work somewhere else, Greg. You
it's-
can't be working for the league and
Well,
have that too.
Yeah,
Get
I
off
don't know.
the teat, bro.
Yeah, you have to get off the league teat.
Trade in your Porsche. Get off the teat.
Me and
Go work for the Associated
me and
Press.
Roger
Greg.
Goodell share a birthday.
You
I
and
think
Barry Wilner over at the AP.
We've got a bond. It's mostly beat writers and then also some national reporters. There's also national broadcasters who are on the list. There was a former colleague of mine at NBC. I wouldn't say that he was aware of my name, or still wouldn't be, that had a vote that famously barely followed football despite his position in the industry. And he would have his assistant do his vote, and even his assistant would sort of ask around to get
Why aren't they
get better
weeding? Why aren't
opinions.
they on an annual basis weeding a figure like that out of the mix? Why would they not realize that person's that deeply unplugged? Why are they still hanging around?
think
He
with
was
the
a
vote?
hero of yours as a child. I'm not going to give away who this was. Well, now we got to take this out. I don't know. Can we really say that?
No, we'll just
I
bleep it.
want proof of that, Greg.
I think part of the reason is it was so simplified to this point that people weren't really overthinking anything about it.
Were you just picking one guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a break, and then we'll preview the Thanksgiving games. All right, welcome back. 3 Thanksgiving games. They're all pretty good.
Maybe
Good-
the best
good to very
slate
good.
we've ever covered for Thanksgiving because
Really
the
good
Lions
slate.
are not a mess right now.
It's also like 3 of the best games of this week. These might be the 3 best games right here.
Should we just take Sunday off then?
We're not allowed to.
We've
do that.
fantasized, Mark, about the off Sunday for years. Maybe this is the one.
Our own bye week to get healthy, to get to rebuild, to look at your
Mentally
own work.
refresh.
I just
Self-scout.
saw Graver sit up in his chair and he was like, "Ooh, the pod is all mine this week."
I'm on Good Morning Football for a segment every Tuesday for Power Rankings, and I see those chairs. They switch people out. People
lot.
get weeks off.
There's a lot. There is.
Schraegbaum wasn't in this week.
Yeah.
Jamie wasn't in the week before. I think they keep Kyle in there. Kyle's not allowed to leave. But maybe it's time. Let's think about it. Let's take this offline.
I feel like every time we've ever discussed it, it's been swatted down pretty thoroughly within 5 minutes of the conversation beginning.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's get into it. And by the way, this is different. For the first time, hit it, Greg Digger. The inaugural John Madden Thanksgiving celebration will be held on Thursday. Will feature special broadcast tributes from CBS, Fox, and NBC. Each network will select a Madden player of the game this season, and a John Madden logo on fields and Madden helmet decals for player John Madden, of course, the great former Raiders head coach, broadcaster, video game icon, passed away. Was it early this year or last year? When did we lose John?
I think it was last year.
John Madden just edged out Trent Green. It was almost a Trent Green Thanksgiving celebration, but we're going
Now,
with Madden.
had they done the voting for that the way that we're talking about the MVP voting, maybe Trent Green jumps ahead there.
There is no question Trent Green would have gotten a vote in that Chiefs season where they went 13-3. Although, Priest Holmes maybe ahead. But man, he was good.
So let's get to it, and that's why I almost ended up with being named the tribute person. All right, the Lions.
Took us to an odd place there.
Yeah, that was weird.
Let's just swerve right back into the correct lane and talk about the Bills and Lions at Ford Field. The Bills didn't I think they did go home. They played Sunday against the Browns because of the snowstorm in Western New York.
I would have stayed.
Hypothetically, you could have just stayed.
I think rent like a massive, luxurious Airbnb and bond as a team before you go destroy Detroit Lions.
I agree. I would have done the same thing, but I don't think they did that. But they will be back at Ford Field for the second consecutive week, and they get the Lions. And it works out really well for us as football fans because the last 3 weeks, the Bills have lost 2 of 3. They got their W on Sunday, but still not quite themselves, while the Lions, the team of around the NFL, have reeled off 3 straight victories, so the game matters. The Lions, in fact, Marc, are in second place in the NFC North, and they are within striking distance in the wild card race. And the Bills, they're just looking to stack wins and keep pace with the Chiefs in the AFC.
Last 3 games during this little hot streak, the Lions have a 20-plus point differential, a 6-plus turnover differential, and +5 in sacks. I mean, they're starting to round into what they talked about all along. And I really loved their last game where it was basically like, we will lean on the ground game. We're not going to ask Jared Goff to save us. I thought going in against the Giants that they were going to get pummeled because Wink Martindale would find a way to disrupt Jared Goff. He basically was relatively untouched in that game. Only 3 pressures, despite the Giants applying like 67% blitz rate. And so that tells you the line is helping out in this situation. So I like that a lot against a really rough to deal with Bills front. They got a couple injuries themselves. But for me with the Bills, I mean, they have had their ups and downs against the run, but they stamped out Cleveland. I thought that was such an impressive showing to give Nick Chubb his worst career day. So that's telling me if you can take away Detroit on the ground, that puts the Lions into some hot water.
It's crazy how Jamal Williams has evolved into their top back and one of their key players and leaders. And we saw that on Hard Knocks, like his leadership, but we also heard them saying DeAndre Swift could be one of the great players in the league, and now he's their third running back. I think you hit on the key part of this game. It was that Bills run defense 1 week phenomenon. I mean, they've been good defensively all season, but they are without Greg Rousseau, most likely again. They're without A.J. Epinesa. They're probably without Tremaine Edmonds. These guys are all not practicing, so I'm projecting here, but it doesn't sound like they're going to play. And I think they're a team that you can pick on their cornerbacks. Dane Jackson's really been struggling lately. Kyer Elam's hurt. They're rotating guys in and out. The Lions' offense has a really good offensive line. I know the Bills are a really good defense, but Ben Johnson, their coordinator, the Lions coordinator, comes up with something every week that really impresses me, and I think they can give us some entertainment on Thanksgiving. This is one of the most watched games of the year every season. The Cowboys game is always the most watched game of the year on the Thanksgiving game, but this Lions game is close, and this is the most interesting Lions Thanksgiving game since maybe Matthew Stafford was dragging around that bum shoulder against the Browns, although those 2 teams stunk.
Was that on Thanksgiving?
I don't remember the Browns playing on Thanksgiving
but they haven't,
since 1989.
They've lost 7 straight games on Thanksgiving, or 5 straight, I should say. And for years we've talked about on this podcast, and I've said, take the Lions take them out of this spot. I mean, this is for the country. It's not just for Detroit. But not anymore. I think they are a team that has a national presence, and it's not just because of Hard Knocks, but I think that did play a role. I think that was a very smart decision business-wise to get people more and more invested in this team. Now we see if they can really, really shock people by beating the Bills. And I think
9.5-point dogs.
Yeah, and that's about right. And that's where I put it. Jeff Okudah suffered a concussion, I believe, on Sunday. So I would imagine that he will be out in this game, but who knows? And I'm just interested with the Bills that they did commit to the run against the Browns, 33 for 171. Cook and Singletary both had 86 yards in that game. Is that a thing now? Are they going to try to commit to the run, or is that more a blip on the radar? Because I think
that had a lot to do with Cleveland's absolutely horrible run defense.
But if you can run the ball, and the Bills if they can run the ball, they should, because that does take some pressure off Allen to feel like he needs to do everything, which sometimes you get that vibe.
Yeah, last week he did about as little as they've asked him to do in a game in I don't know how long. I mean, he didn't run the ball. He only threw the ball, I think, 27 times in that game. I loved how James Cook looked. It's like, where have you been all season, James Cook? Sometimes these rookies, it's like the light goes on, the practicing during the season. You learn how to prepare. You understand the playbook. He could really change that team because I think Singletary's a good runner. That's not been their problem. It's not like they don't have running backs. I think they have them. And the Lions showed last week they really changed what they did to stop Saquon Barkley, played man-to-man coverage on the outside and just loaded up front. That's very risky to do. I don't think you can do that against the Bills. So I'd like to see a little more of Cook.
Can I give you one little tidbit a tidbit that I found interesting about this game?
Please.
So the Bills are playing in Detroit in a 5-day span twice. It's only happened 2 other times in NFL history.
Wow.
The first was the Patriots at SoFi a couple years ago. But the other one was the 1932 Portsmouth Spartans over twice in 5 days dealing with the Staten Island Stapletons. And we have is that related to the Christie Stapletons of that part of the country? We don't know.
One of our behind the glass.
But that's an NFL nug.
Stars.
I have a second little nug. The day before the Bills traveled to – this should have been on our Sunday show. The day before the Bills traveled to Detroit, a man named Squirrel Winter – dug Josh Allen out of like a 7-foot snowbank in front of his house.
I thought he was on like the Portsmouth
No,
pilots.
this is a human being in Western New York named
named
Squirrel Winter.
In 2022.
I just like things
The
like
Portsmouth
that.
I love it.
Pantaloons.
You know, it's like Josh Allen got out to a really slow start in that Browns game, and I think the day before you've got a man named Squirrel Winter digging you out, you're going through a lot as a person.
I think Squirrel, if the Bills do recover from this mini slump and win the Super Bowl,
you got to give a ring to Squirrel.
Squirrel gets a ring.
I mean,
absolutely.
Yes. All the after parties.
What was that first team again? The one from
the Staten Island Stapletons.
No. I like the Stapletons.
The Portsmouth Spartans.
The Portsmouth Spartans. See, put on your pantalones and get your oblong ball.
They are now the Lions.
That's wild.
Take me through the history.
See,
Marc.
like that wasn't a totally invaluable nug. It was questionable to some degree.
This matchup
You made it smarter.
features the 2 quarterbacks who lead the NFL according to PFF in turnover-worthy plays. Jared Goff is number 2. Josh Allen is number 1.
Why do I not think that Jared Goff is nearly that bad? I think he's been okay this year.
He hasn't been that bad, but he gives the other team a chance usually about twice per game.
Fair. Let's move to the middle game now. It is who's even. Marc, you were a little in your feelings about the Giants on Sunday's show.
I am still.
So let's now, if they truly are a team that you believe in, that people should not have been so dismissive because the Lions pants them at the Meadowlands, well, let's see you show yourself as a real deal NFC Titan and give the Cowboys a ball game at Jerry World. Do you think they have it in them?
Well, this is a tough spot for.
But if you think they have it in them, Marc.
I think they can make it a game if this is one of those weeks where you can run on the Cowboys, who gave up 200-plus to the Packers. They gave up 200-plus to the Bears, which there's obviously the Justin Fields element to that. I'm looking at the Cowboys offense right now and just saying, I don't know about this because they've been absolutely – the way they looked last week, they could beat any team in the league handily outside of maybe the Chiefs. And the Giants right now, we mentioned on Sunday, are coming out of a game, a loss to the Lions, where you've got half your offensive line totally banged up. You don't have Wan'Dale Robinson. They're really thin in the wide receiver group. And you're playing the number 1 pass defense in the league that creates utter havoc for quarterbacks. So for New York, I think it's a terrible matchup right now.
They also ran, you mentioned how well the Giants have run the ball and how poor the Cowboys' run defense has been at times this year. They ran it well in Week 3. That was a game. I know these are completely different teams. That was a Cooper Rush game. But they were able to run the ball 167 yards against the Cowboys. That feels like their only chance. Saquon did not run well a week ago. I thought he was tentative. I know the offensive line kept losing battles, but he kind of got back to trying to make big plays, and they couldn't get anything. The Giants just aren't built for 3rd and long. I mean, they don't have a good enough offensive line. I think Daniel Jones has done well enough, but you mentioned losing Wan'Dale Robinson. For a minute, Wan'Dale Robinson was like their number 1 receiver, and they're just trotting out new guys every week. Kenny Golladay had a couple catches last week, maybe.
He got a standing ovation, actually, after the first one. The Wan'Dale Robinson thing stinks because watching the game on Monday after the fact, they keep on throwing him the ball. And it's like kind of an underrated funny movie. Hot Tub Time Machine came out like 10 or 12 years ago. There's like
properly
thumbs
rated?
up, double thumbs up from Gravedigger. There's a who's the guy from Back to the Future with the face with the very Crispin Glover. He plays like a bellhop who you learn in the beginning of the film has one arm, and then the whole movie you're waiting to learn how he loses the arm. And it was sad watching Wan'Dale Robinson because he was making play after play after play, and I'm like, oh no, he's gonna hurt his knee. He's gonna hurt his knee. And then sure enough, he goes down poorly, and it's an ACL injury. So tough for the Giants. I was gonna lock this one up. I didn't even look at the spreads, but
good
it's
luck
way
with
out
that.
of the
Yeah.
zone.
I was
It's
thinking the same thing.
Cowboys by 9.
It's-
So the Vegas is begging you to believe in the Giants, but I can't.
Vegas
I'll just
has
say this:
been
we're nobody's underdog.
Certainly not this one.
more down on the Giants relative to their record than almost any team I can ever remember. At no point this year have they viewed them as an even average team. They've been below average, and they've been waiting for the correction. And it happened last week. I don't know if I'll give them a chance to keep it close. Usually things kind of come back to the mean, but the depth of the Cowboys' pass rush is just crazy because you get so worried about Parsons. And they have Andrew Thomas, who's one of the best left tackles in the league when Parsons is lined up over there to neutralize him a little bit. But then you got to be worried about Lawrence, and you got to be worried about Sam Williams has a lot of juice, and Dante Fowler gets in there. And there's just so many guys and a coach who really creates unique game plans every week. And every once in a while, like in Green Bay, it goes bust. Like he got crazy creative there, and it just didn't work. But I think he has a lot of ways to beat the Giants.
One little note on the Micah Parsons knee situation. Dr. Jerry Jones issued this quote this week. His physical durability is amazing. We're expecting him to go Thanksgiving Day.
Book it.
It's a big moment.
I don't think Parsons has a choice.
No.
You're playing, Micah.
Yeah, I think.
It's a wrap.
I'd love to see
All right,
just
boss.
a great Dak game. Just like I just
Well,
we
like
bet
just
you
saw
would.
one. We just yes,
I
another
know
one.
that's what
Bet
I
you would.
mean. But now Dak's had a weird career where he's either like absolutely incredible or weirdly in the middle or mediocre. And I want to see the absolutely incredible
go to
Dak because his leg he's feeling it. You can see the
All right.
confidence in the legs.
Let's go the other way on this because the Cowboys have a bit of a spotty record in recent memory for me on Thanksgiving themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I could see it going the other way where the Cowboys have some self-inflicted errors and the Giants do what they've done for most of the season, hang around, and all of a sudden, yes, it is, oh, God, Saquon just broke one, and we're down 21-17 midway through the fourth quarter. I could see that. I don't think that's how it's going to play out, but the Cowboys, just through years of being the Cowboys, can't you see them kind of playing down to their opponent a little bit and making this a close game the way the Giants have played this year? It's a good one.
Every one of these games is also going to have a Madden player of the game, like in the old days. Couldn't you see Saquon Barkley being that guy that comes on up and eats the
big old turkey leg.
six-legged turkey?
I don't really believe in these things. Yeah, if it's close, you're right. I sort of trust the Giants.
Would
more
you believe in the
close game.
Trent Green turkey leg?
What don't you believe in?
I mean, Trent Green was announcing Jets Patriots just a week ago, so it just seemed like a weird move to make the game.
Just to honor him.
But what is it you don't believe in? You're saying?
I don't know.
Okay, well, I mean, probably
the
a lot of
Cowboys
things.
in a
I
close
imagine
game, but
a
I
lot of
was
things.
gonna throw out a stat. You're right. The Cowboys have lost 2 in a row on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
They are 1-9 against the spread in their last 10 Thanksgiving.
There you
games.
go.
So if nothing else, people think that they're better than they are on Thanksgiving, and the Cowboys haven't exactly handled success well over the years.
Exactly. But, like we said, the Sharps, they got Buffalo 9.5. They got Dallas laying the wood 9. Finally, we get to
The wise guys.
the wise guys. Finally, we get to a game where, Mr. Thick Coke bottle rims in Vegas with all the monitors everywhere, Gregg in 20 years, says, this one's a tight one. This is tight.
That's right.
It go either way here. Patriots at Vikings. Surprisingly to me, small spread. 2.5. I think they're really into Football Outsiders, Vegas right now because
I mean, they have their own version of
yeah,
Football
because
Outsiders.
They
run their own numbers.
Do you ever listen to these bookies on the radio though? They don't sound like they watch any of these games at all half
But the
time.
Vikings before, I would have to check what they are now, but they were like 16th or 17th in DVOA, Team DVOA, entering the Cowboys game. They got to be like 20 now. And that's the only explanation why the Vikings at home should be just 2.5-point favorites over the Pats. Tell me why I'm disrespecting New England, Gregg. Like, shouldn't this be a bigger spread than it is?
I don't think so. It doesn't surprise me. It started at 3, so I think some money's gone to the Patriots. The underlying numbers, I think that Las Vegas uses
somebody's money. I wonder
is
who that
similar
could
to
be.
whatever Football Outsiders creates, which is like, what are the things that leads to winning over a long track record? It's yards per play on offense. It's yards per play on defense. It's situational football. It's turnover margin, stuff like that. All stuff where the Vikings profile as a very average team and the Patriots profile as a pretty average team. Maybe they're both a little better than average, and so it's a 3-point game at home. The Patriots, and I don't buy these numbers. I mean, because they don't take opponent into account.
That's what you don't believe in.
But the numbers would tell you the Patriots have the best defense in the league by a decent amount. No one thinks that, but they've been able to beat up on opponents or quarterbacks that hold the ball too long. Can they disguise some coverages and confuse Kirk Cousins like they've done some of these young quarterbacks? We'll see, but the Cowboys did a good job at it last week. Part of the reason I think Cousins lost last week is because he didn't know what he was looking at, and he just held it, and it was kind of a bad Kirk Cousins game like
the
that.
Patriots terrorized Zach Wilson twice. They got Ellinger when they had the Colts, and that spikes some of their numbers. But, yeah, they are a very good defense.
And they made Jacoby Brissett have his worst game of the year, but it's still Jacoby
Justin
Brissett.
Fields lit him up, so
it's fair.
I mean, I think, like, you're right. Like, I think they can watch that Cowboys tape and look at how lost Cousins seemed. Cousins is quietly not having a great season in a lot of ways. And I don't like the situation with Christian Darrisaw, concussed again. We talked about it.
He's
out of the
officially,
lineup. That's like an all-pro level left tackle this season. And you've got Matthew Judon and Dietrich Wise, arguably like a top or second pass rushing duo in the league right now. I think the Patriots, you could say they're the best defense in certain ways.
So wild to hear Dietrich Wise being involved as one of the best pass rushers.
Or Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith on the other side would be right up there too.
I think
Hunter so much.
The Patriots have an offensive line problem that I think has gotten overlooked. They're expected to be without David Andrews for this game. Rap Sheet said that he might be out for the rest of the season.
A thigh injury.
But he was at practice on the field on Tuesday, so
weird.
That seems like he's
he
at
didn't
least
look like a guy that was coming back quickly.
No, I don't think he's coming back quickly, but the
Sunday.
fact that he was out there, who knows?
You shoot him up.
He's their best offensive lineman. He's their center, and I think Max.
It's a brutal game.
They also signed Connor McDermott, who might play over Isaiah Wynn at this point.
Yeah,
They've got issues.
Wynn is a little banged up. Mac Jones came out of their bye a little different. I was curious what the Patriots would do. I said Mac Jones is a problem to solve. What are the Patriots going to do? And their offense was a little different. They played way more 2 tight end sets. They had a couple times they did this, what they call a full house formation, where they had both Jonnu Smith and Henry essentially line up as fullbacks, and they created some big plays out of that. A lot more power running. They kind of ditched a lot of their zone stuff. When they went play action and Mac Jones was under center, they actually looked quite good. When they went back to the old stuff they were trying early in the season, which is shotgun and trying to throw it deep, it just wasn't working. Stop doing that. Just stop doing it.
Yeah, it was a very strange offensive game for New England because Jones definitely looked better. Statistically, he completed about 80% of his passes.
He threw it well.
They weren't deep shots downfield.
No,
left
they
and right.
regularly.
ones.
Well, Zach Wilson will tell you it was windy out there. All right, man, it was windy.
Well, that's wise for them not to.
But at the same time, they regularly move the ball into Jets territory, and then and this is what I was talking about on Sunday. Like some of the play calling was so conservative, and I understand. They were feeling absolutely immensely confident in their defense's ability to continue to stick it to Zach Wilson and the Jets offense. But I thought that game should not have ever gotten to the point that it got. I thought Mac Jones is playing with confidence, and they should have given him more opportunities to put the Jets away in that game. And I think you heard that in the fans at Foxborough who were upset about some of the play calling in 3rd and 4th and short situations. The trust level is not there in Jones yet, but maybe if he stacks a couple more wins, Patricia and Belichick will take off the safety wheels. But I think that's the vibe I get from the offense, that they kind of were taken aback by Jones's beginning of his year, and he's going to have to re-earn the trust of that coaching staff and the play calling.
I think that's right, and I don't think they trust their offensive line either. Yadni Kajust, who will match up with either Hunter or Smith, just is a problem. That's, I think, their third right tackle. They, at this point, their third stringer and a backup center. That's concerning, and I am a little concerned about Justin Jefferson, Thielen, Hawkinson versus these Patriots defensive backs. It's been a great story all year how well they've played in the secondary, but they also haven't really played many good players. So I'm just curious to see how these defensive backs that have played well.
It was Swallow the Sadness Sunday, because I think because teams like the Giants and the Vikings were kind of put back in their place to some degree, among other teams. If they both go and lose 5 days later, I think we start to think very differently about both of them.
This is a big game for both the Vikings and the Pats.
Well said.
I think it's true.
The Vikings,
Kirk Cousins'
I think the Vikings especially
is like surprisingly saucy.
Well, yeah, that's
because
true.
I don't think anyone's expecting if the Giants lose the Cowboys, there's almost no shame in that. The Cowboys are soaring. If the Vikings get crushed against New England,
I mean, if they get crushed, even if they lose,
or if they put up 10 points and their offense goes into one of their little.
Oh, it's going to be. Put it this way: I'd be surprised if the Patriots. A little bit surprised if they win, but if the Vikings have another poor game, it's kind of on brand for who they are. Even as much as we've talked about they're different this year, it would be very Vikings, especially with Kirk Cousins era Vikings, for them now to fall on their face in this game. And I think the Giants, it matters not just whether they win or lose, but how competitive they are in this game.
Absolutely.
If you get your doors blown off, I would be very nervous as a Giants fan. If you play well and lose a close game or outright win, I think you're feeling pretty good, even if you're 7-4.
We do have some league breaking news.
Ooh.
Interesting. I was going to hold this one, but
no.
Go ahead.
I mean, we announced like a bunch of like Rams, like ham and eggers, like getting having transactional items. So in Carolina, smell you later, Baker Mayfield. Sam Darnold starting on Sunday. Steve Wilks just announced it while in service of our show, right while the show was going on.
Thank you, Mr. Wilks. Good job with your defense.
Sam Darnold.
I told you this was going to happen. We're going to see both these guys.
We'll
Baker
probably
and
see
Sam
them all
this year.
again.
Yeah, that Baker game was just like they
stinks.
didn't really give him a chance. It felt like it was very much like the early PJ Walker games where it was like they weren't even trying.
If you look at his numbers in his Panthers career, they're basically very similar to what Darnold did last year.
I think both of these guys will never start again as the wanted starter.
It's like a week one starter type. Yeah, I
call that the wanted starter.
Yeah, so Darnold does get his first start. The fourth quarterback for the Panthers to start a game this year.
Get ready for a lot of Patriots in your life, by the way. The very strange Patriots season. They're here at 6-4. They've kind of kicked the can down the field of like, well, they've made it this far. They could figure out their problems now. Famously, Belichick's mentor said the season doesn't start until after Thanksgiving, and they've stacked some wins, but we're going to see a lot of them. This is a strange team. They've got Thanksgiving, then they've got Thursday night football against the Bills, then they've got Monday night football against the Cardinals.
Who's asking for this?
And then after that, and I think this game will get flexed out, they've got Sunday night football against the Raiders. 4 straight primetime games.
Who asked for this?
For the Patriots.
Besides,
I can see why they did it. I can see why they did it.
4 straight primetime for the Patriots?
I mean, they do weird things like that, and I think they're thinking, to Gregg's point, that they'd be surging. They were a playoff team a year ago, and when you made the schedule...
They lost by like 77 points in the wild card round last year.
Yeah, but when you made the schedule, you're thinking, we're going to get year 2 of Mac Jones. He's going to grow. This whole offense is not going to be run by a bunch of special teams and defensive coaches.
I mean, they are 6-4.
There's 32 teams.
These teams do change as the season goes, and they have set themselves up where they have a little bit of mojo, I feel like, where they feel good about themselves, at least on one side of the ball, that if you can get
at most on one side
some
of the ball,
sort of the passing game going, then it's like you start feeling like a Bill Belichick type of team and being a little more
best
in the mix
special
than you
teams
expect.
group in the league, as proven by Sunday.
Are you asking me to buy in on this Patriots team?
But I'm just saying they win this Vikings game, you're just going to be seeing a lot of them. That's all.
The problem is we're going to be seeing a lot of them regardless of how they play on Thursday
It's not
night.
results-oriented, unfortunately.
All right. Thank you to everybody for listening. Yes, it's a different week. As I've said, it's a different week, so you're going to get us again tomorrow, Wednesday, usually a quiet day here. a recharge, the battery day for the ATN gang, but no.
Throw that out the window.
Throw it out the window. Keep grinding. No reverse gears in this tank. We will have the full Week 12 preview on Wednesday, Dark Thursday, enjoying Thanksgiving Friday morning. No fun show, but a recap of Thanksgiving. And we have a big announcement that will go out on here. This is exciting. I love it. It's happening. People have been asking for it for a long time. We will have, for the first time ever in the history of this program, we've done live shows in Miami, Atlanta. We've done them in here and there and London. And. But we've never done one in our own backyard. For the first time, we will have a live show from Los Angeles, the homecoming show. Justin, give me the details, baby. Jackpot, baby.
Details, Wednesday, January 18th, 2023 at the Bourbon Room. You can go to Ticketmaster.com, search Around the NFL. Doors open at 7. The event starts at 8. Tickets start at $35.
It's up in Hollywood, I believe.
Nice.
It is in Hollywood, on the second floor of an address.
Maybe next year we get to the top floor. But this year, right there in the middle.
You know what we should
the
do?
old meat of the old hamburger of the building.
We'll take it.
We should put this out, put the podcast out.
Yep.
We should wait a little bit before putting the links out on our socials, just as like a little extra. If you've made it to this portion of a November 22nd podcast, you get a head start here.
A valuable Easter egg to some degree.
Very good. I love it. And before we say goodbye, we have some breaking news. I told you I've had no interest in this Hard Knocks season because of the team, the Cardinals, which I don't enjoy. But this might change my mind. Cliff Kingsbury, the head coach, said that Arizona has relieved offensive line coach / running game coordinator Sean Kugler of his duties following an incident in Mexico City on Saturday night.
Oh, man.
Kingsbury said, "We relieved him of his duties and he was sent home Monday morning prior to the game," adding, "It's challenging anytime you have to make a staff change in that type of manner." Man, that team is all fouled up.
Yeah, it's a rough and tumble city. I don't know what occurred, but I hope everyone's all right.
He was featured heavily, too, Dan, as offensive line coaches often
You're right.
are in the last
Oof.
episode, as sort of a typical offensive line character, hard-edged, but, gave his team the business.
A hard-edged, emotional, amped-up offensive line coach on Saturday night in
I mean, in
Mexico
theory,
City.
HBO was there.
They should be.
There was also
documentarians.
There was
I know
also
Gregg doesn't want to go down that avenue. I get that.
There was a report, or someone said publicly, actually, that the Eno Benjamin footage for when and why he got cut out of nowhere was going to be really noteworthy. And then there was a follow-up that said there will be nothing about Benjamin's release on the show.
They're open about that they've removed elements, plot points.
That doesn't
it's like
happen.
an old 70s film. It's suddenly like bang, 20 minutes.
That
is
doesn't
removed
happen
from
on
the
Real
film.
Hard Knocks.
Yes, it does.
Not this retrograde off-brand version.
I see where you're coming from with your stance on this show. You can't
All
be
right.
too hard on your stance.
I won't. I love all programming connected.
Well, you're heavily connected
with
to the other one.
Shield.
You don't want to disenfranchise HBO.
I
as a
love
entity.
Hard Knocks. Yeah. The Cardinals, not so much. Thank you, everyone, for watching, listening, and we'll be back, in 24 hours with another program. So until then, Dan Hanzus signing off for Quiet Storm, the old boss, Justin Graver behind the glass. Heed the call.